This situation keeps getting crazier for the Toronto Blue Jays as multiple different reports are starting to escalate surrounding Bo Bichette and his future in Toronto. We're going to break down those reports and discuss what they could mean, as there have been some conflicting reports and rumors as of late. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. This is the place to be for daily Jays content. So if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Jays news, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's dive right into it. A lot to go over today. Free agency is upon us. We already saw a move go down surrounding Jorge Soler being traded from the Braves to the Angels, and things are just getting weird. And this is only the beginning. We're now day 2 into the offseason, and things are going to start escalating very fast for the Toronto Blue Jays. For Juan Soto, we know the Jays are in on Juan Soto. His asking price is skyrocketing, 700 plus million. There's a lot of things that are going on. But today the focus is going to be on Bo Bichette, and a lot of different things are going down surrounding Bo Bichette. But a new report dropped saying the Blue Jays' $33 million superstar is listed among top blockbuster trade candidates. And we're going to start with this report, and we'll dive into the second one. So this one, you can see here, the Toronto Blue Jays have had a tough 2024 season and won't be able to keep its core completely intact forever. Both shortstop Bo and first baseman Vladdy will be free agents in the not so distant future, and it would be hard to keep both on mega deals while also bringing in more talent in free agency. Because of this, there have been a lot of trade rumors. The most likely outcome is that the Jays at least enter the 2024 season with much of the roster still together, and then if they struggle, they use the trade deadline to make big changes. And I agree with this sentiment. I think at this point, the most likely outcome for the Jays is they extend surrounding Vladdy and Bo, not of course free agency, putting that aside for a minute, is that they extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They probably don't extend Bo Bichette. And then once Bo Bichette goes into this season, if he plays terribly and the Jays, fail to sign some of the big free agents in this offseason, then they kind of take that time and they trade and they move on from Bo Bichette either at the deadline or, of course, maybe they let him walk in free agency. But I think if the Jays aren't competitive by the trade deadline, then they might consider moving Bo Bichette if they don't already move him this offseason. But I think their current strategy and their current plan is to just extend Vladdy, keep Bo as is, and make a bunch of other additions, whether that's Alex Bregman, whether that's Juan Soto, whether that's a guy like Pete Alonso, Teoscar Hernandez, all these different targets that the Jays, Anthony Santander, that the Jays could go after and pursue. If they don't, if they're unable to get a lot of those guys, they kind of remain stagnant. And then at the deadline, they're not in a position to make a push for the playoffs, and they're sellers, not buyers. Bo Bichette is the most likely guy to be shipped out. That being said, if they go ahead and they, let's say, extend Vladdy, they keep Bo as is, and they bring in one of the big prizes in free agency, and they're making a push this season, I could also see a world where maybe they extend Bo Bichette either at the deadline or after this season. But regarding a trade candidate for this season, MLB trade rumor Steve Adams listed Bo Bichette, named Bo Bichette as one of the top trade candidates for this offseason. Bichette is on the list largely because teams are going to try to acquire him, but a trade here feels unlikelier than any other name on the list. The Jays have signaled that they want to retool and try to compete again in 2025. Bichette would be logically a big part of that, assuming he can rebound from an injury-shortened and uncharacteristically feeble year at the plate. Moving him now would also mean selling low on an all-star player before his 27th birthday. And that's what I agree with here. I think at this point, a trade in this offseason would only make sense if they either get a replacement. Now, if they say, hey, I want to put my eggs in the Willy Adames basket and we move on from Bo Bichette, I don't think they would move on from Bo Bichette to get prospects. I think in almost every scenario here, Ross Atkins has made it clear that they want to retool, not rebuild. And if they trade Bo Bichette, they'd want to get MLB-ready players. Now, maybe they trade Bo for a starting pitcher. Maybe they trade him for a corner outfielder who can hit for power. Maybe they trade him for some bullpen arms. There's a lot of different ways they can go about it. First baseman, who knows? Probably not first baseman. But a trade wouldn't be to signify, hey, we're going to tank next year. We're going to rebuild the whole team. It would be more so, we have someone else that we think is better suited for this team in a trade for Bo Bichette. Now, again, that would probably be in the form of Willy Adames if they're able to sign him. He's one of the bigger guys, one of the bigger free agents on this market for this Blue Jays team because it makes so much sense, whether you factor him in at third base if you keep Bo or at shortstop if you trade Bo. A million different scenarios here for this one. And it's super, super intriguing if you are the Toronto Blue Jays to see how this goes. And it's very easy to see a scenario where the Jays underperform early in 2025 and Bichette is a summer trade chip. But the team seems committed to taking at least one more chance with this core. And again, that's exactly what it seems. And all reports are kind of leaning to him being moved at the deadline if things don't work out. Now, I have high hopes for the Jays season. A lot of it depends and rides on this offseason. This is probably the last offseason that Ross Atkins has to prove himself. So he's going to be swinging for the fences. Now, whether that's in the form of the unlikely Juan Soto, maybe Alex Bregman, would be, a good addition there. Willie Adames. There's so many different guys. I keep mentioning Anthony Santander. They have a ton of guys to pick from, but what they can't do is fall into the trap they fell in last year, where you give guys like Kevin Kiermaier, all these different mid free agents, Justin Turner. You can't do that. You got to go swinging for the fences. And then a new article dropped just a few hours ago saying a Bo Bichette trade seems unlikely for the Blue Jays, according to Popular Outlet. And that's another thing here. You can see this here. This is the bird on Bichette. Jays have signaled they want to retool and compete. And again, confeeble. So another article kind of doubling up on what was said in this one. And again, it's the same report, but it's interesting in the sense of it's conflicting reports, because we have these two reports saying that, hey, Bo Bichette is probably going to remain a Blue Jay, but then you also have one saying that they're listed among blockbuster trade candidates. I've seen some reports, and I've been covering reports on the channel of them being linked to trades with a bunch of different teams. Bob Nightingale has come out and also said that, hey, they might be looking to trade and move on from Bo Bichette. So it's very interesting. And again, whether you go for a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, whether you go for a guy like Bo Bichette himself, trade for Bo Bichette, it gets very interesting now. And seeing these two new reports come out saying, hey, they're probably not going to trade Bo Bichette this offseason. It's probably something that's not going to happen because they want to retool around him. It's different than the sentiment that we've had for the past couple of months, where it's like they're shopping Bo Bichette. Again, John Heyman and Bob Nightingale have come out saying that, hey, specifically Bob Nightingale, Bo Bichette is not going to be returning to the Toronto Blue Jays if they let him walk in free agency. So what do the Jays do from here? Do they go ahead and do they trade Bichette now while his value in theory is at an all-time low, but if he comes out and plays decent? I think trading Bo at the deadline does make some sense in theory and on paper, but in practice, it might be a bit difficult, because if the Jays are hovering around 500, it's going to be a hard sell to your fans to say, hey, we're 6 games out of a playoff spot. Let's go ahead and completely sell one of our best players, assuming he's having a good year. Like, yeah, it would make sense to the fans out there, but for the casual fan, or even just to the front office and the owners, you're losing a lot of ticket sales by trading one of your star players. So it's a very intriguing and a crazy situation, because we know that they also have the deal with the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension. I ultimately think that's inevitable, and I think that gets done, hopefully, as soon as, a couple weeks to a couple months. But regarding Bo Bichette, it is the biggest question mark for this team, and maybe they're relying on, hey, if we go out and get a guy like Juan Soto or a guy like Alex Bregman, obviously 2 different caliber players, but still, if they get one of the big free agents, then we can rely on Bo Bichette. We can do a Bo Bichette extension, because then your window of competing has extended. If they can't land one of the big free agents, then your competing window is shrunken a little bit, because then you're kind of just hovering on, hey, let's hope Anthony Santander has another 40 home run season. Let's hope he can bounce back. Bo Bichette can bounce back. So it's a scenario that is very fluid, and the Jays have a ton of work to do in what is going to be one of the biggest off seasons in recent memory in the past decade for the Toronto Blue Jays. And this is the place to be. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are and your prediction for this offseason, because we have a long few months ahead of us. So stay tuned for all that. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. See you guys later. Cheers.